Hello and good evening. I'm Brittany Brackett, and this is your Onyx News.
Live from Onyx News Universal Studios. Coming up next.
Judge orders Roger Stone to appear in court due to Instagram post. Ex-FBI official. Crime may have been committed by Trump. With the stalls regarding Brexit, Honda has made the decision to shut down the Swindon plant in the next 3 years, meaning that the economy will be hit on a huge loss of 3,500 jobs. Honda CEO Takahiro Hashigo said the deal had nothing to do directly with Brexit, but with tariffs being the bigger issue and concern in 2022. Asia and North America have a huge demand for these gas-conserving vehicles and may shift their operations. Here's the lowdown on Brexit. The United Kingdom has voted to leave the 28 countries in the European Union. 51.9% of the vote won the divorce in the Union. All these countries even share their own currency, the euro. Courts have ruled that the UK could stay if Theresa May can ink a deal that works, but more than likely, the UK will be leaving the EU on March 29th of this year, the deadline from 2 years ago. Brexit could be cancelled, but Parliament would have the final say with another vote. Our guest is an ordained bishop, speaker, life coach, author, and international strategist who was also the past General Secretary of Elijah's Breed Ministries. He's frequented shows on the BBC, Faith TV, and God TV, and we welcome our BBC correspondent, Dr. Kyrian Dewar from the United Kingdom. Dr. Dewar, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me, ma'am.
Of course, absolutely. How do you feel Brexit has shaken up Britain? How do you feel the trade will be affected by this divorce next month on the 29th?
I think nobody ever talks about it from this perspective. Brexit is for Europe what Lehman Brothers was for the US and the global economy in 2008. We knew it was a likelihood that it would happen. The country went to a vote, and the referendum result were that we would leave. And the problem after that is just like the collapse of Lehman Brothers. Right. Nobody knew the extent of the damage or how deep the economic crisis would be or how long it would last. So Brexit has catapulted the European markets into this whole period of complete economic uncertainty.
Right. Right. And that has been an issue. I mean, just reading all the different articles associated with all the changes that are taking place. I mean, even the Associated Press has reported that General Motors, Ford Motor Company, Volkswagen, and Nissan are making structural changes, and Nissan is actually no longer planning to build SUVs at their England plant. So because of all of this and all of these things that are going on, obviously people are a little unnerved about the situation. So do you feel businesses other than car companies have the same level of concern about Brexit, and why is that, you think?
I think within certain sectors there appears to not be a concern. A lot of people think that it will be business as normal because they didn't really pay attention to the market-leading voices at the time of the referendum that predicted economic changes on the scale that we're now seeing, and we will continue to see. I think this announcement from Honda, the announcement from Nissan and other companies is just the beginning of a sustained period of economic changes, not only in Britain, but across Europe, as it becomes less and less likely that manufacturing industries in particular will produce products here simply because of the uncertainty of tariffs, import duties, and everything else associated with it. What I think we should have paid attention to were the voices 2.5 years ago that were predicting this. Just like I mentioned a few minutes ago, there was predictions that the markets would collapse. We just didn't know when. And in 2008, when they did collapse, it wiped out most of the global economy. I think Brexit is the proverbial jack in the box. Nobody knows exactly what will happen when the lid finally pops on that jack. And we're all sitting in anticipation, not just within Europe, but around the world, waiting to see what is the effect on global markets, what is the effect on on British economy? What is the effect on European economy? Because across the board, our currencies, the euro and the pound, have been devalued by Brexit. Manufacturing has begun to slow down because already companies are looking at the possibility of import charges, of tariffs on goods, both imported and exported. And of course, financial markets in Europe and Britain are slowing down as banks and financial institutions begin to contemplate, do we move out of the UK to stay connected to the European markets?
Right, and it does get tricky. You know, the more that you dig into those 28 countries and how they're all going to have to deal with these tariffs, can be extremely tricky. And I don't think it's an accident that all of these car companies are starting to back out slowly, and they're saying, okay, this is going to be a bit of a headache until we know for sure exactly what's going to happen. So with 45 years of seamless trade, now things are drastically about to change. So some businesses are already making their plans to move abroad to avoid any of the long-term issues. Do you think these companies will find resolve, or do you think they could run into the same dilemma in another location?
I think it's highly likely that with the impending Brexit and the possibility of other countries leaving the European Union post-Brexit, that this is just the tip of the iceberg from an economic standpoint. With companies like Honda, Nissan, and various others, I think we have yet to see the full damage of what will happen and what will transpire. I understand the decision by Honda's president and CEO.
Right.
I take into context the fact that they say Brexit wasn't a contributing factor, but
Correct.
somewhere in that whole decision process, that Brexit agreement, that looming withdrawal date, has to have played a process. Right. I understand that, Honda is trying to become a leading authority in electronic vehicles. They started the ball rolling, and their biggest competitor, Nissan, have really catapulted themselves far above beyond where Honda is at in that concept. But I think right now, this whole platform of industry is feeling the shake of what could happen and is trying to brace itself for potential impacts. The problem with Brexit is right now nothing is still certain. We're just 6 weeks away from the withdrawal agreement, the divorce being finalized, as we would put it, and we still don't have an agreement. So there's so much economic and political uncertainty. Right. It is almost impossible to predict what is going to happen. We could end up in a position where Britain withdraws from Article 50 and we don't see Brexit happen. We could end up where we leave Brexit with a no deal with the European Union and we go to World Trade Organization rules. We could strike a deal. I know today, as we're speaking, the Prime Minister has been in Brussels again negotiating further on the Article 50 withdrawal agreement. Yes. But it's just a complete mess. It's like trying to predict the future through a foggy crystal ball.
And as we close, I do want to thank you so much, Dr. Kyrene Dewar, for your take on that, and we will be in touch with you more from our UK correspondent. Thank you so much. Don't go too far. Up next, we have Monteria Robinson, who we'll be talking to in regard to her son, Jamarian Robinson. Up next.
Do you have trouble falling asleep or wake up with a sore neck or headache? Then it's time you discovered MyPillow.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Just like you, I had problems sleeping. 10 years ago, I invented MyPillow. It took me 2 years to develop because I wanted to have everything you would ever want in a pillow. I made sure that you could adjust my patented fill so you could have the exact support you need as an individual regardless of your sleep position. I also wanted a pillow that would last, so I made MyPillow machine washable and dryable. I back MyPillow with a 10-year warranty and a 60-day money-back guarantee. Not only that, I do all my own manufacturing in my home state of Minnesota. I personally guarantee that MyPillow will be the most comfortable pillow you'll ever own.
Call now or go to MyPillow.com. Use this promo code to save over 50% on a MyPillow 4-pack with 2 premium pillows and 2 Go Anywhere pillows. Order now.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
Monteria Robinson is the mother of Jamarian Robinson, the 26-year-old star athlete who was shot 76 times in August of 2016 while he was being served with a warrant at an apartment complex in Georgia. He had been recently diagnosed with schizophrenia before the incident, and that officers weren't prepared for the confrontation and used excessive force with efforts to take Robinson into custody. But instead, he was riddled with almost 100 bullets in numerous places in the apartment. Thank you for joining us, Ms. Robinson, and we offer our sincere condolences for your son.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So, what do you want us to know about the type of person that your son was?
Well, actually, Jamarian Robinson, who was he? He was actually a student athlete at Tuskegee University. He was actually a biology major. He played football and ran track for Tuskegee University. Jamarian was the oldest of 8 grandchildren. Jamarian was actually my firstborn son. Jamarian comes from a 4-generation military college-educated family. My sisters and I, we would call Jamarian Daddy Daycare, actually because he was always our daycare provider. My sisters and I would always, go to different events in the city or attend different meetings. So Jamarian was always our babysitter. So we would say, oh, we'll get Daddy Daycare to do it. But as a person, Jamarian was smart. He was intelligent. He was humorous. He was athletic. He was, he was a good person. I remember after his football games, Jamarian would always ask one of his teammates, if they would like to join him and I for dinner. And of course, his teammates would go, oh, yes, great. I would love to go to, have dinner with you and your mom. So we always would take one of his teammates. He was always making sure that his teammate or one of his friends was always taken care of when he was in college. Jamarian, he was just a loving, caring person. Every time he saw me or my sisters or his grandmothers, he would always greet us with a smile and a hug. He would always pick us up, spin us around.
So he was a kind soul.
But he was always showing love.
He was a kind person.
Correct.
So, even more of a loss, I'm sure, for you with him being such a sweet and kind person. I can only imagine what you've been dealing with. But as far as the case goes, we know that no body cams were recorded with the shooting because the U.S. Marshals don't wear body cams, which I've found. They don't serve warrants with these body cameras. Paul Howard, the Fulton County District Attorney, is pushing for stricter laws on national officers, not just local police, to have the cameras. Because of this, what is the status of when the names of the officers involved will be released?
Well, actually, we do have the names of the officers.
Okay.
Actually, 3 of those officers were served on January 16th of 2019 this year. 3 of those officers were served with a subpoena to appear before the grand jury. And actually, they were supposed to appear on February the 5th of this year. But on January the 28th, the DOJ and Paul Howard is the Fulton County District Attorney of Atlanta, Georgia, where my son was killed at. The DOJ, which is the U.S. Attorney General B.J. Pack and Paul Howard, did come to an agreement to temporarily suspend the subpoenas. The DOJ is claiming or stating that Paul Howard didn't, I would say, the policies and procedures. He didn't do the correct filing. I would say in order to subpoena these officers, but those officers were supposedly to appear before the grand jury on this past February 5th. But as I stated, it has temporarily been suspended. So we are anticipating next month, which would be March the 5th of 2019, that those officers are supposed to go before the grand jury. And they are, the charges that are being brought on them, a few of the charges is felony murder, burglary, and oath of an officer, along with 8 other counts.
My goodness. So there's up to 8 counts for some of these officers. You said 3 total will be charged, or more than 3? Actually, right now they have 3 that has been subpoenaed. And as I stated, it has
been temporarily placed on hold due to Paul Howard needing to file the proper paperwork according to the federal level.
Okay. Well, what efforts have the local leaders in Georgia taken to assure this doesn't happen again to another young man?
Well, actually, I would say that Paul Howard is the only one just recently that has came and stated, hey, I'm ready to take this case on. I'm ready to move forward. My staff, my team, we are ready to go, full speed ahead on this case. It has been 2.5 years. My family and I have been waiting patiently, but I know a case of this magnitude does take quite some time.
Right.
So we have faith that the system, we're working in our favor. So Paul Howard has been aggressively. I do know where I'm going to take you back to December the 28th of last year, 2018. Paul Howard did file a federal lawsuit against the Department of Justice based upon the fact that they did not release the records pertaining to my son's death. So that's why the Department of Justice responded back to Paul Howard January the 16th stating, hey, this was not done properly. You need to do it based on the federal level. So that's why everything has been temporarily placed on hold.
I understand. So from all of that, with the paperwork being filed, what are going to be the next steps with that?
So the next steps, actually Paul Howard, the Fulton County, Paul Howard did state to me that we're still going to move forward and that the next grand jury, they convene in March of next month. And that date that we're anticipating is March the 5th. So that's the next date that the grand jury convenes. So we are looking forward to that date. My family and I, we are very hopeful, that this would, finally play its course. As I stated before, it has been 2.5 years. We've been waiting for quite some time, and we want to see justice. I want to see justice. My family and I, we want to see justice for my son Jamarian Robinson. He did not deserve to be executed in such a heinous manner.
Of course. And of course, your mission, along with seeking justice, I've seen your pictures that you have where you've been marching. You have hashtag Justice for Jam. I admire you for your dedication to this cause and to get justice for him. What do you feel is your mission along with seeking justice for him? What do you want people to know about this case and, how to prevent this for the future?
Well, actually, number one, my mission is being the voice for Jamarian. My son is not here to tell his story. Right. So that's why I've been out here diligently fighting this case, to elevate my voice so that my voice can be heard. I will not be silenced as his mother. This has been a 2.5-year process for me and my family. And my ultimate goal is to bring about change. We need to get laws. I would like to see laws put in place where these officers are mandated to wear body cameras. Because as you know, they did turn off their body cameras when my son was killed. And to me, it's like, if you want us to believe what actually happened, show us the footage. Without body camera, it's like my word against their word. And so that's why I, as his mother, when the false narrative was dropped that it was initially a shootout, I immediately hired my own investigator, my own forensic person, my own ballistic person to prove what actually happened to my son. And with all that being said, I'm able to prove what happened to my son. So that's why the state has to move forward, because the evidence is too overwhelming for them to ignore.
Oh, I'm sure. And with all that said, what advice can you give others who have young black sons, young black daughters, to possibly prevent this kind of terrible incident?
Well, actually, to be honest, the advice that, that you can give any young man or brown or black kid would be, when they're faced with the case of, I would say, when they're faced with a police officer, the only thing you can do is comply. And I would hope that we all teach our children to comply with those in authority. And in my situation, I've always taught my sons to comply, to be obedient, so on and so forth. But my son was still executed, and my son did comply. My son, he put his hands up, and I don't know if you've seen any of the footage. My son was shot 6 times in the palm of his right hand and 5 times in the palm of his left hand. I just would advise people to, just to pray. Tell your kids, your brown and black kids, to comply, and you have to pray for them. You have to pray over them that they will. I just hope they're never faced with the type of officers that my son was faced with on that day, because as you are aware, we see this every day in the news.
We do.
Where there is a hunt, for brown and black children, and this is happening every single day. One brown or black person is killed by police. So I would tell, I would advise people to, tell your kids to apply when a gun is in their face, when a police officer, is there with a gun in their face. They can only thing they can do is comply and pray.
I agree. Well, Miss Monteria Robinson, mother of Jamarian Robinson, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you being here. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. We look forward to hearing from your investigator again soon. Right after our sponsors, we'll hear from Pastor Mark Burns talking about Roger Stone and the infamous photograph.
Do you have trouble falling asleep or wake up with a sore neck or headache? Then it's time you discovered MyPillow.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Just like you, I had problems sleeping. 10 years ago, I invented MyPillow. It took me 2 years to develop because I wanted to have everything you would ever want in a pillow. I made sure that you could adjust my patented fill so you could have the exact support you need as an individual regardless of your sleep position. I also wanted a pillow that would last, so I made MyPillow machine washable and dryable. I back MyPillow with a 10-year warranty and a 60-day money-back guarantee. Not only that, I do all my own manufacturing in my home state of Minnesota. I personally guarantee that MyPillow will be the most comfortable pillow you'll ever own.
Call now or go to mypillow.com. Use this promo code to save over 50% on a MyPillow 4-pack with 2 premium pillows and 2 Go Anywhere pillows. Order now.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
Roger Stone has no chill. He has been summoned to court due to his Instagram post of a questionable picture he posted of the judge Amy Berman Jackson in the crosshairs of a gun, which is no laughing matter. Stone is the 6th person arrested and or charged in controversies associated with either the 2016 election or with past employees of President Trump. With us is one of our regular guests and panelists, Pastor Mark Burns, the pastor labeled as the incredibly influential person who molded President Trump's campaign. Hello, Pastor Burns.
Happy to be here again, Brittany. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So tell me why Roger Stone insists on always being the class clown or causing a ruckus. He seems to always try to diffuse all his legal troubles with Nixon gestures, remarks, or in this case, suggestive pictures. What is his end game with all this behavior?
Well, listen, we're all talking about it. I think Roger Stone, who is a very dear friend of mine, believes that, this is all is set up. Again, the judge that is appointed by President Obama, who also ignored the Benghazi case, clearly is not a supporter of the Trump administration or anyone connected to the president. Of course, she sentenced Paul Manafort, which again, I'm not here to argue his case, but I think Roger Stone just believes that he needs to make sure that the public completely understands what's taking place and to truly hear his point of view. Again, this picture is fake news. It's clearly fake news. I spoke to Roger myself, and that logo is not a crosshair, Brittany. Okay. It's a Celtic cross. Okay. It's a logo that is used oftentimes. I think the organization is called Corruption Central. Corruption Central, thank you. But it's a Celtic cross. So the fake news media will take it, run with it, and now saying, look, it's a crosshair. And they make so much noise about it.
But do you think he's deflecting? Do you really think that he's deflecting?
No, I don't think he's deflecting. I think he's simply pointing out that this is how fake news will take something and run with it. I mean, again, why in the world would somebody of any intelligence would put an actual picture of a real crosshair on a sitting judge that's going to decide their fate? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Again,
you would think, and I agree with you there. You know, he labeled himself as a dirty trickster, and he's the kind of person that is pretty bold. But I mean, do you think that he realized that it seems he might be threatening a judge on Instagram? I mean, he did delete it, and he knows that that was not okay looking back on it. So what are your thoughts about that?
Well, again, this is simply fake news. CNN anchor himself is on CNN hoping that Roger goes to jail and even calling for rape of Roger Stone. I mean, seriously, there's no low to what CNN and some other fake news journalists will do. It is clearly a Celtic cross. The organization has used it for other pictures, has used it for other pictures, but yet when Roger Stone uses it, it's now a crosshair. It's no longer a Celtic cross. It's a crosshair, and Roger Stone is aiming at doing harm to the judge who is about to decide the fate of his life.
Well, let me ask you this. Due to his gag order issued by the judge, Amy Berman Jackson, he can't talk about the details of the case to prevent the jurors from having any predisposed notions that could affect all the legal proceedings. But his lawyers insist on making sure he still has the right to free speech with what he posted, obviously outside that realm. My question is this: why does he feel the need to act out all the time? And do you think that he knows something that we don't know? And I mean, do you think this concerns him about his looming charges at all?
Well, listen, I think this is complete witch hunt. Again, Robert Mueller's case, and I've been very, very public on all the major networks about how I feel about the Robert Mueller's investigation. Again, it was designed to discover if there was any collusion with the Trump administration and the Trump campaign with the Russians. And that has been clearly determined that there is no Russian collusion that is taking place. But again, the investigation is nitpicking and searching for things that they can draw charges on and continue to simply look under everybody's dirty laundry and discover what can they charge them on. And that's exactly what has happened to Roger Stone. Well,
time will tell. Pastor Mark Burns, it's always a pleasure. Thank you for stopping by. We look forward to seeing you soon.
Happy to be here, Brittany. Bye-bye.
Again, thank you so much for watching Onyx News, which is Black news from a Black perspective. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow night, right here, same time. Take care. Good night.